Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in eastern Nebraska, where a Columbus man will spend decades in prison after being convicted of dumping his roommate's body in a storage unit. 40-year-old Rodolfo Cadaura Nogueras was sentenced to 50 to 70 years in prison in Colfax County District Court on Thursday. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and felony assault charges back in November. Authorities say Cadaura Nogueras called authorities last April to say he'd killed his roommate, alleging the roommate was abusing his 20-year-old daughter. Court documents say Cadaura Nogueras told dispatch he shot the victim, 45-year-old Ariel Varela Herrera, in the head and left his body in a storage unit in Schuyler. A former eastern Nebraska wrestling coach facing child enticement charges after a 16-year-old spoke up about what she called grooming behavior. 37-year-old Jeremy Andel was charged in Butler County this week. He was a coach at David City Public Schools. This after police were initially contacted last May. The girl telling police that Andel had sent a slew of inappropriate texts. Authorities say Andel sent over 2,000 texts to the teen, some of which asked for explicit photos. Andel resigned from David City Public Schools last June. In his resignation email, Andel said he was resigning because of the mental and physical toll coaching took on him, but also said, quote, "There are other areas in which I failed," end quote. An arrest warrant for Andel was issued on Monday. The inheritance tax in Nebraska, unpopular with lawmakers and citizens alike, but the revenue it generates provides funds that are critical for local governments. Now, after failing to pass a bill last year that would have eliminated the tax outright, state lawmakers are instead proposing a reduction this time, including concessions that they say will help provide consistency in budgets for county governments statewide. Tim Hackett takes us inside the latest with Nebraska's inheritance tax.
With Iowa repealing its state inheritance tax at the start of this year, Nebraska is now one of 5 states in the U.S. that still inflicts a tax on the relatives of the recently deceased. After failing to pass a bill that would have eliminated the tax in Nebraska last year, a reduced version of the tax is now on the table to start this legislative session, as Senator Robert Clements works to remove something he feels puts Nebraska at a competitive disadvantage against other states.
The overall goal is to eliminate a tax that's unfair and non-competitive with other states, but then to do it in a way that it doesn't raise property tax and we get broad support statewide.
This year's version of the bill would set one flat standard all relatives of a decedent would have to pay, 1% on the market value of the inherited property, instead of the current model, which charges higher rates for people more distantly related to the deceased. But while the tax itself is unpopular with both lawmakers at every level and the taxpayers they represent, it provides revenue directly to Nebraska's county governments, helping them provide services at the local level without raising taxes elsewhere.
We are putting ourselves out there. The alternative is also out there where, if we don't do anything, there would be, I think, a pretty fair likelihood that the inheritance tax would just be taken away, period. And there wouldn't be any replacement revenue. And then where are we as counties because of that loss of revenue?
Mark Shanerock of Jefferson County is far from alone in his concerns, and he and the other members of the board of Nebraska's National Association of County Officials worked with Senator Clements and Governor Jim Pillen to establish what they call replacement revenue sources, which would help offset the losses incurred by an inheritance tax reduction. Senator Clements says new data made available to the counties currently in opposition to the bill might well be enough to convince them that the revenue they stand to lose with an inheritance tax reduction will be substantially balanced out.
Some person said to me regarding the inheritance tax, "Don't be caught dead in Nebraska." And I really think that's a really bad slogan to have for Nebraska. So I'm overall really looking for the time when we can eliminate this, but still preserve the revenues and not raise property taxes.
Senator Clements says this week he's been meeting with county officials and with senators working to potentially draft an amendment to the bill that aims to address some of the concerns posed by the opposition. And if that amendment gets enough endorsement from within the Revenue Committee, then it can be reviewed on the Senate floor. In Jefferson County, Tim Hackett, News Channel Nebraska.
We have a new case of avian flu in Nebraska. The State Department of Agriculture Thursday saying they've confirmed a case in a backyard poultry flock in Saunders County. It's the third case of avian influenza in Nebraska this year, following cases in Kearney County and Nance County last month. It's the latest in a number of bird flu infections nationwide, many of which have spread to cattle, although Nebraska has yet to see the flu spread to cattle herds here. The city of Hastings transitioning to a new fire chief who comes from within the department after 3 decades as a firefighter. Ryan Valenta tells us how he plans to run the department after controversy surrounded the exit of the former chief.
After 32 years of unwavering service, the longest tenured employee with Hastings Fire and Rescue has climbed the mountain and now stands at the top as the new fire chief.
Spent a lot of time here. It's become a big part of my life over the last 30 years. Again, started as a volunteer in 92, at the chief at the time in 94. J.C. Matera gave me my opportunity at that time to get into the fire service, and I guess from there helped me build it into a career.
Troy Vorderstrass was confirmed by the Hastings City Council on Monday as the 17th fire chief since 1878. He had served as acting fire chief since August 14th of 2024 and interim fire chief since October 14th due to the abrupt departure of former Chief Brad Starling, who cited the reason for his departure as ongoing conflicts with the Hastings City Council. Since that time, Vorderstrass says the past 5 months have prepared him for the top role, partially thanks to some helping hands.
Trying to juggle both those positions at the same time was an increased workload. A lot of staff stepped up, took on some of those duties that we could delegate to them. Have done a great job. Without staff, I mean, we'd be stumbling, but staff stepped up.
Looking ahead to the future, Vorderstrass wants to make sure the department, currently comprised of 31 employees, keeps its promise of excellent community service by training their youth to become future leaders within the department.
So we're pretty young, right? So we've got a lot of guys that are eager. So our leadership team has to kind of mold them and lead them to the culture we want, which is a highly effective, providing the most exceptional public safety as we can.
Reporting in Hastings, Ryan Valenta, News Channel Nebraska.
Some famous country singers and a brand new event coming to a South Central Nebraska county fair. Adams County officials recently unveiled their grandstand lineup for this year's Fairfest concerts, along with a brand new event. Country artists Chase Rice, Warren Ziders, and Scott Wolverton headlining the fair concerts. Rice and Wolverton, a Nebraska native, will be performing on Friday, July 18th. Ziders is on Saturday, and Nebraska's roughest rodeo will be held on Sunday. But officials also announced the fairgrounds are the new host for a major event.
So in September, the 12th through the 14th, we're actually going to host the Mid-States Finals, the rodeo finals. We put in a bid, and we're going to have it for the next 2 years here at our fairgrounds. We actually received a letter from them, and they were looking for people to bid it. We have the facilities. We have lots of horse stalls and stuff out here. They came out and toured it, and then we went ahead and submitted a bid.
The Adams County Fair will be held in Hastings from July 16th through the 20th. And love is in full bloom. This Valentine's Day, couples flocking to floral shops looking to surprise their significant other. And one flower shop in Norfolk celebrating 5 decades. They opened their doors to Hanky Hazelton, revealing the bustling behind-the-scenes magic that spreads joy across their community.
Happy Valentine's Day! Welcome into the village. What people might not know is how roses are bought and sold. A rose is sold by the petal count. The higher the petal count, the more premium rose. And then the size of the head of rose, we only carry the premium roses, and you see the difference in the size, the quality, and the long-standing or the lifespan of the rose.
On a normal week, the village will order a few hundred pounds of flowers, which seems like a lot, right? Well, when it's Valentine's, you can expect a whole lot more than that.
One of our loads that we picked up at the airport weighed 880 pounds, and they'll all be gone by tomorrow afternoon.
It can be a hard physical job with flowers coming in daily, but one thing some people may not know is what you see here in the front is nothing like what goes on behind the scenes.
We cut the stems, we put them in buckets of clean water and some flower food, and then we let them drink so they hydrate really well.
So we have the cooler that we keep all the flowers in once they're processed, and then we keep them at a temperature between like 35, 40 degrees. That way it keeps them from like blowing out too soon, so then they blow out once they're at your home, and you can enjoy those at home.
The village has provided flowers among many heartfelt gifts for 51 years and hopes many throughout the community will remember one thing.
I hope that people look at the village and know that we aren't a box store. Those ladies back there are putting in their heart and soul, and we're here long hours, so I want the village to be known for our customer service.
In Norfolk, Hanky Hazelton, News Channel, Nebraska.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com, click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.